Okay, well, welcome to today's webinar. Well, we're going to take a look at the release of our SMSF Day online course. So my name is Aaron Dunn, and I'm joined by David today, who's our Sales and Development Manager. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, welcome for those who are watching as well.
Yep. So today is very much an opportunity to share with you the details of our recent SMSF Day events. So we did hold those throughout kind of the back end of March and early April across 5 states. But most importantly, the feedback that we get each year is well, we love the content. Can you put this into an online format to us? So as we work through these events, what we ultimately get to is an opportunity to go back and record these. Today is to show you what we have actually put together for maybe you to be looking at it or for people within your team as well. So from an agenda point of view, we really just want to touch on, I guess, the wrap up of the events, what we did from that point of view to give you some context as to then how this actually folds into our online course. We'll talk a bit about the course structure and the CPD hours. We'll then dive into what that student journey looks like through an exploration of the actual online course itself at this point in time. And we'll spend a bit of time going through the modules, how the assessment works, where you can find the materials, all those things, because one of the core parts to this year's event, 3 of the 4 sessions were weighted around our Malthouse family and our Little Brewers Superannuation Fund. And the feedback that we had from, I guess, a structured approach to a single case study really gave the day some really solid flow, and the feedback certainly supported that as well. We'll then wrap up with some info around our pricing and commonly asked questions we get on this. And then what you can do beyond our SMSF Day online course from an ongoing CPD point of view, and naturally finish off with how you can get things started. So let's sort of kick things off here with a little bit about our SMSF Day events. So these are our showcase events for each and every year. And one of the big changes this year was ordinarily you'd hear from me talking through 4 different topics or a continuation of topics for 4 sessions throughout the day. This year, we had for the first time our SMSF Technical and Education Manager, Tim. He'd only been, David, I think it was maybe a month, not even a month into the job. Yeah. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire. But to Tim's credit, and obviously his knowledge and expertise in this area, these days went off without a hitch and were a huge success, because what it allowed us to do was to not only share the load, but bounce off each other in terms of the content and information and so forth. And you can see just some of the photos on here from our Melbourne and our Perth and our Sydney events that were hugely attended. We had 150 plus people, and that interactivity, so the way in which we set up the cabaret tables and stuff, certainly worked. And again, we had a number of sponsors that came along the journey. So from BGL and Act 2, ASF Audits and Super Guardian. So that interaction throughout the day, I think, was a real positive. So then the challenge comes to say, well, how do we actually bottle that experience that you get from a face-to-face event and actually try and incorporate it into an online event? Because the feedback that we get from our audience was great. You know, the overall feedback rated as high as we've ever had it. So 4.7. We've always rated pretty high, you know, 4.5s out of 5s, and the feedback about meeting expectations and returning to the events have always been solid. So so the challenge for Tim and myself was, well, how do we bottle, as I said, that and then put it into an online course? And so one of the things that we really learned from this is, well, it needs to be immersive and interactive. And this is where, David, I guess we've learned a lot over the past couple of years from the structuring of our foundations course, and the fact that we know when we are delivering stuff online, it needs to be more than just a webinar. So what we've done in a lot of these types of learnings going forward is we've focused on what we see as a true e-learning experience, fully mobile responsive, but allowing you to go through in your own time and at your own pace. Because we know that timing and location doesn't necessarily work for everyone with these events. People may be regional, and therefore getting into capital cities is a bit more of a challenge. But we also know something like this online course will enable people to utilize for team learning. And the fact that we have case studies and interaction and activities through those case studies is a perfect way for people to be able to tap into this online course as part of your ongoing CPD as well. So David, is there anything else you want to add, I guess, from the shift from face-to-face into the online course?
I do, Aaron. There was a couple of occasions with the interaction with people on the tables amongst themselves, discussing the case studies, but also asking questions of both yourself and Tim, that there was a couple of occasions when you've went, oh, we haven't thought of that. Let's put that, go off and research that, put that material into the online course as an additional to the day, because there's people with all different thoughts and backgrounds to expand on, what was the core. There was that extra information, and that's the benefit of the online course. We can put this from the time limit perspective. The person or the student going through the course has all the time in the world. So that way we can put more into the course than what's even on 8 hours of the face-to-face day.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, one of the things as Tim and I were recording, in particular, modules 1 and modules 2, is that they are probably 15 or 20 minutes, each of those longer than we had in terms of allocated time, because you are limited to actual time on the day, because a session needs to finish at 10:20 because you're then going to morning tea, and so you've got to kind of keep on track. Whereas as we work through the course here, we would be able to go, well, actually, we spoke about this in a bit more detail at the event. So let's sort of open up a couple of extra conversations here to let people know. And a really good example of that is the $3 million consultation that came out between the point in time when we first started, that it was an announcement. Then we saw some further detail around fact sheets, and then we saw consultation, and then, of course, we've got the budget coming up as well. But the online course now naturally spends more time looking at the issues through the consultation, and therefore expands on what we initially spoke about there. And equally, as we work through the case study, the conversations that we had from Melbourne to Brisbane to Sydney to Adelaide to Perth meant that we continued to build this catalogue of information that, again, we could look to apply in the course here as well. So yeah, absolutely. The fact that the online course here is probably stocked as much as any, I guess, level of content that we delivered on the face-to-face days.
And the heading, delivering an online course, well, we have to, because to our surprise, I guess, there was an overwhelming response, and some people missed out. We need to look at bigger venues next year.
Yes, we did. Yeah. We did have some sellouts at some locations, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So, David, I'll get you to maybe touch a bit on the way in which we've structured the course and the duration.
That's right. So we'll have a look at this in more detail live in a moment. But yeah, there are 4 modules which mirror the face-to-face workshop. There is video presentations almost on every single slide, both the narration of Aaron and Tim. Case studies, very important. Activities, in particular module 4, where Tim will take you through exactly just like being in the face-to-face workshop as you were sitting at a table. There are discussions and time and thoughts to actually prepare yourself for the assessment piece at the end of each of the 4 modules. Yep, 8 hours of CPD, that's important. A certificate is available for download, and we'll look at that in the session on the live event a bit later, after the successful completion of each of the 4 modules. There's a time limit of 3 months, but we know with life distractions, some of that can go quite quickly. And you'll see when we jump into this the session in a sec, there are multiple touch points for for access to all of us, basically, for assistance, help, and feedback. It is definitely self-paced at your own time, but you'll find that once you get going, there might be a light globe moment that there's something you're doing with your current clients. You'll want to dive in and find out everything there is about that particular topic. So it is all about validating your learning at each contact point. So it's not just at the end preparing for the assessment piece, but there's some extra questions that are built into the actual module itself as well to get you thinking and prepared for the assessment piece.
Yeah, and I think the real important part here is you can kind of use this to go through, tick a few boxes, get your CPD assessment, move on. But there are also parts of this that just allow you to fully immerse yourself in certain topics. And what I mean by that, and we'll touch on it as we go into the live session, is the fact that we've got so many other links and references in there that you can get your teeth stuck into to help understand these issues further. Because as you rightly said, David, you might come across a particular client situation, and therefore you really want to deep dive into that topic. And we've got additional materials, the case study there. We've got resources that you could be clicking through and reading more information about to really get you up to speed on that particular topic. And I think that's the advantage of this, is that you might hit that client issue now, you might hit that client issue in a month's time, but you can tap into that and download those resources or reference those links for your own benefit. Even once the course may have then expired, you've got all that information there available for you. So once you've purchased, and we'll take you through this in just a minute, David, let's just go through and explain what steps occur once you actually purchase the course.
Right, Aaron. Yeah, and also we'll show you where to purchase towards the end of the session as well. So you'll receive an email containing your important login details and a link to the help guide, and we'll have a bit of a look through that as well.
Yep, David, so quickly there, just to note, so this is the platform. So when we say platform-wide access, if you already have a login to our platform, you will use that login. Okay, so if you've never used our platform before, then you will be issued with a username and password to be able to access the platform. And that not only gives you access to the course, but that gives you access to be able to order documents and other parts of the platform as well. So if you do already have a login, you will get the email you can see on the right-hand side, but in essence, your username and password in essence is going to be the same. We are just opening up additional parts of our platform for you to be able to access the course.
And the user guide will actually have screen images to literally hold your hand right through.
Yep. So do you want me to jump to that user guide now, David? I'm happy to do that.
No, we'll wait a little bit just to
cool.
as an additional. Yep. So each module, as both Aaron and I have mentioned, has a number of resources, and we'll see that there's contact for both Aaron and Tim as the presenters, but there's also additional links to websites, importantly, the case study, activities on each of the modules as well, and of course, the CPD assessment on each of those 4 modules. The feedback, we'll see there's a live link you can send a message to while you're working through the course, or you can email us or even telephone, and that's all throughout each of the modules. Importantly, the CPD certificate is automatically available upon successful completion, and we'll show you exactly where that is and how that looks. It does tick boxes for a number of other institutions, so we'll look through those. And yeah, we're all here to provide assistance and to make your the experience of going through this online course a positive one.
Yep. All right, well, let's get stuck into it, David. So I'm going to now change over to my main screen here.
Well, as you do that, I'll have a bit of a chat. So the materials of the course is set up to literally mirror the SMSF face-to-face event. So there's videos, just like there was at the face-to-face event, a demonstration to inform you, and that's where we are now. So we've gone in and logged in to the platform, and we'll arrive at a dashboard. It could be purple in color, but once you click on the learn, that is identifiable in a green background. So we're at the learning section, and depending on if you're an existing member or if you've purchased perhaps the other courses like the foundation course, it could be a list of accessible courses or events. So we'll concentrate on that top right-hand corner there, the SMSF Dave online. So we can click that to access. And the navigation is a welcome screen, first off, with a video to get you settled of what to expect. You can see a list of each of the 4 modules. Below that, it will show you each, and this is where you actually begin, of each of the 4 modules, and the assessment piece at the end of each of those 4 modules. You must complete each of the 4 modules successfully in order to have access to the CPD certificate.
Yep.
Okay. So let's click on the first module and open up the learning environment. All right, so there's this is a great way to start, because already it's one of the questions we get is, if I'm going through this at my own pace and I have a client appointment or I need to tap out, do I have to sit through the whole module in one go? Well, the answer is no. You can actually save as you go. And when you return to log back into a particular module, it'll actually ask the question, do you want to continue on from where you left off?
Yep. So I'm just going to click no there. So it takes us back to the start, David.
So here is,
I was just going to say, so you can see here the mobile responsiveness of it, and you'll have the ability to look at this on a tablet, on a PC. Obviously, you can put it up onto a larger screen if you're looking at it with your team, on a mobile phone if you're sitting on the train heading into the office. You can deal with all of those particular ways because of the fact that we have built it in this e-learning environment.
So first slide, you've got a progress bar importantly across the top, the title of the actual module. Right-hand side there is a bit of an outline of the progression through each of the modules. You have a navigation control panel, you might say, at the bottom there for a play, repeat, jump to the next slide. So it's pretty easy to get around each of the module sessions. There is sound, obviously, you can adjust because, as I've mentioned, both Tim and Aaron will narrate the entire course. And there's additional videos that may pop up from time to time on each of the various slides as well. All right. So you can pause things, rewind things. Even before you actually get your teeth into the course and launch in, the most important thing to do is obviously start at slide 1, is you can see at the top left-hand corner of each of those slides, presenter info of who is presenting. You can click, as Aaron is doing now, to engage. If you have further questions or feedback, you can get in contact with the presenters, and the resource tab, which is probably the second.
So just before we jump there, David, I guess there's a couple of ways. So yes, the presenter info can email there. The other way, of course, is on the bottom, you can actually ask through our ordinary ticketed support as well. So you can see here, this comes up with a technical question. You can go next. And then if you want to, you can then reference that in here, and either Tim or myself, if it's a specific question around a technical aspect, you can actually ask there as well. So there are a couple of ways in which you can get in contact with us. I would probably, even though you can do it through here, my preference would be that you do it through the ticketed support, because what you'll end up seeing is the ability for either Tim or myself to be able to comment. Here, there is a limitation about the relevant person, which we've linked it to the presenter of the particular module, or primary presenter of that module. But it doesn't necessarily have to reside with me in this topic. It could reside with Tim, or vice versa, where Tim was in one, it could reside with me. So this is our fastest way for response, because it is a centralized ticketing system to allow for those responses to occur. But you do have multiple ways in which you can get in contact with us. Of course, in addition to just phoning, if you could get through and have a chat to us about a particular topic as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. The resources tab.
Yep.
So in here, we have importantly where you can access the case study. and each of the activities, as well as you can see there, there's further links for further knowledge, as Aaron's previously mentioned, to a number of different areas related to the topic within each of the modules.
Yep. So in this one, we're obviously doing an update in our first session. So this not only has the slides and the info that we're talking about here, but then we have our comprehensive workbook that takes you through a lot of the topics that we cover in that first session. But David, just as you were saying that, I might move across to module 2, because as I touched on earlier, module 2 is where we, for the first time, introduce our concept of the Malthouse family and our Little Brewers Superannuation Fund. And in here, you have that case study and activities that will form part of all of the remaining modules. So from that point of view, this document then becomes crucial to the ongoing requirements of these modules, and therefore you would be downloading this, you'll be reading through this. We also have a video that gives some detail to explain this as well, but it just gives you the background information that you need to understand before we start the journey on actually the activities that relate to each of those particular modules as well. So you can see here the examples of the brew house and so forth, navigating through the life cycle. And then we have these activities. So we've got discussions, we've got some time. So when you get to certain parts of these modules, and I might just move across to this one here, where Tim's sort of talking about this expansion of the family SMSF, what you can see here is he's talking through the facts of the case study, but then at the end, you're going to have an activity that you'll need to, in the activity, that'd help. You're going to have an activity that then you will stop. And at that point in time, you will stop and you will start to put together information in this workbook to enable you to understand and identify the issues that form part of the discussion. So it gives you an ability to maybe utilize this personally and check through the answers and stuff that Tim and I talk about. But equally, you may then utilize this within a team. So you might have discussions as a team and try and even use a whiteboard, which is obviously the common way that Tim and I were doing it as we went through our SMSF Days events. But what you end up with after you've done that is then there is an actual discussion. So here you can actually see Tim and I then together, and this is a common feature that occurs thereafter, because what we're doing is we're just trying to then identify all of those issues. This is where we were using the whiteboard ourselves at the event, but looking at and discussing many of those topics or many of those issues that relate to that particular question. So that's the theme that you'll get as you work through the course, is that we will give you that activity and then give you time to stop. And that may be, as David said before, you might need to stop and then you might need to break because it's a phone call or it's a client meeting or whatever it is. You can then pick it up again, right? And go through and complete the module and understand those specific issues in more detail. And again, you then have resources that give you more information that allow you to deep dive further into those specific things as well.
And yeah, there might be those who are listening who were at the face-to-face events, and there's a lot of information flowing, trying to remember it all and write it all down. Or if you make a note in your workbook, you think, what was that about? So now you've got the opportunity to go back in at your own pace and explore and go over the material to understand, to then be able to apply that knowledge.
Yep, absolutely. And I won't say how big the bloopers reel was, but I think at some point we probably should put something together because it was quite interesting and challenging to say the least. But this sense of giving you an understanding of those answers and responses and sharing some of the information that we did speak about at the event. So as in the interactions that we had and the things that were raised above and beyond maybe where Tim and I were sort of leading to in the first instance. So some of these conversations here you can see are sort of 30 minutes in length. So whereas in the event itself, we might have only been able to have 15 minutes. So that's the depth of info that you'll get in some of these activities and why there's some real benefit attached to how we've gone about building that online course.
One thing to note, if you, the navigation, it's actually within the user guide. Some of the control panel may look a little bit different if you were on a laptop that's not in a network. So if you do find that the navigation is a little bit different, just look at the user guide and it'll give you a quick update on how to get through.
Yep. So the only other thing I think here to note is that once you naturally get through to the end, so there's obviously each of these have its own interaction or activity that you do, and then obviously the answer and discussion to those particular things. And then there'll be a wrap up of that particular module, allowing you to then go on to the actual course. So most importantly, as you work through this, you need to complete each of these. So what I mean by that is just to make sure you're moving through from the interaction to the next lesson, because it is marking off that module as having been complete. Sometimes when we go through the courses and that sort of stuff, that the people say, "Oh, I've done all the assessments. Why isn't my certificate producing?" Well, that's because we need to make sure that all of the modules are marked off as being completed as well. So anything else, David, you want to add there other than moving into the assessment?
No, let's go to the assessment and have a bit of a look at that.
Yep. We won't be giving the answers, of course. But what you can see is then within each module, what we have done is we've created a pool of questions that require you to then go through and answer. So this is looking at specifics of the SIS laws and tax laws and stuff that we spoke about in that particular session, and giving it the flavor of our Little Brewers Super Fund case study to ensure that you go and we can validate that you've actually gone in and watched the module, the information, the lessons within the module, and can therefore adequately answer those questions. So importantly, a couple of things here. So it is 5 questions. You have 10 minutes. It is multiple choice. You have to answer successfully 4 of those 5 questions to be able to move on. You do get a second attempt at that. If for some reason you have not passed on 2 occasions, we then do ask that you get in contact with us. We'll go and have a look at what the issue may be, so in terms of your own knowledge, and then we can go back and we will tell you to go back and maybe have a look at this particular issue in itself. And once you've done that, we'll then open up the assessment for you to go again. So we're not going to let people just kind of keep try to tick it off. We want you to ensure that you come away from this module having understood the relevant information. So again, it just comes up here. You can then see the information. It's very specific to the course, and then you can go through and answer those as well. So you'll literally go through next, submit, and then it will give you a score to allow you to go, well, either you need to retake it or you go away and actually move on to the next module. So I might just go back and explain a little bit more as well about the core and the case study. So within the case study within the course. So what we do in module 2 is we kind of open up this concept of our Little Brewers Super Fund that has Andrew and Mary in the fund. And from there, the question comes about of the inclusion of other members and the opportunities around the family unit, and the fact that we have a brewery and a tap house and some opportunities to explore things like contributions, appropriateness of structures, 1 fund, 2 funds, 3 funds, and really getting that journey underway around what is potentially achievable. So this is not about what's right and what's wrong. And that was quite an interesting conversation to start with in a lot of the locations about the appropriateness of multiple members in funds, or do you run 1 fund, 2 funds, 3 funds, and so forth. But it's about taking you on the journey, identifying many of these issues and understanding the purpose as to why you might be doing these things. And that then really starts to come to the fore in the discussion that Tim and I have back with you throughout the course. Module 3 then really goes beyond the contribution landscape and starts to move into retirement phase, or the interaction between retirement phase and accumulation phase, where members are of an age where they can contribute but draw pensions. And if we have younger members, that interaction that happens as well, and then naturally moving on to the death of a member. So it's very lineal in terms of the way in which we move you from module 2 into module 3. But then what we do, and very deliberately, is we go, let's change this up. We know that that lineal approach doesn't always work. And there are a range of things that might ultimately puncture the SMSF life cycle. So in our last module, and this was really well received, is well, how do we deal with different events that really destroy the planning that we had? And therefore, how do we manage the risks around those things? And in here, we look at topics like residency and ensuring that if we've got people who are overseas, they're not going to blow up the tax complying status. We're going to be looking at terminal illness or disability and death benefits. We're going to be looking at divorce. So all of these things that ultimately puncture issue or create issues and puncture the way in which this fund was operating, and therefore what you might need to be considering at each of those particular steps as well. And again, that interaction taking you from a discussion point of view and really looking at the particular activity that you'll be able to see in here. And again, you'll be using your case study and the activities from that case study to actually answer the questions that Tim has posed in front of you here. And then we're moving into that particular discussion from that activity and giving you some context and insight as to those relevant issues. And once again, you've got in the resources here, all of that information if you want to deep dive further into the particular topic that we have as well. So David, are we missing anything on the course side here?
No, but you can have a look at the user guide as well, just as a bit of a helicopter of what we've covered so far.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing to note here is within, and I might just jump back to the main dashboard here as well, is on all parts of our website, we have what we call our knowledge base. And our knowledge base takes you to, in essence, and I'm just going to jump over to here because this is the one I prepared earlier, takes you to our knowledge base that gives you access to things like our sample documents, our integrations, how you can use integrations, how you can set yourself up and so forth. But most importantly, our user guides on a range of things. It's our SMSF Foundations course, it's our SMSF Day course, it's how to use our ABN TFN integration, which we've done recently. All these things for you to go and look at, and fully searchable. So you can type in there SMSF Day 2023 and you can see it takes us straight away to that online user course guide. So David, I'll hand over to you and you can sort of explain a little bit more here as well.
Yeah, so I've literally just built this as though you've never been to our platform before. So as Aaron said, you've got the access to the platform, so you can see what buttons to press to log in, arriving at the Learn dashboard. You've purchased the course, it's available to you, and yeah, it's literally click to open up or continue, depending if you've got multiple events or other accesses to you. So it's all listed. There's a note there about the time, as we mentioned earlier, 3 months, all the way through. How to get to the first module, download your resources, the links, there's the workbook, the case study, into each of the navigations, the welcome screen. You can see there some of the buttons that are a little bit different if you do use if you come across that type of navigation through your mobile devices.
Laptops and mobile, iPads, that sort of stuff. You'll come out with a slightly different look and feel to what you're seeing on my screen.
It's just the looking at the sound, the video, the audio. Jump to the next slide, looking at each of the resources. So it literally just takes you all through. We're looking now at continuing into the assessment pieces, the completion of those assessments, and the navigation again of how far you've progressed until you actually have completed each of the 4 modules for the CPD certificate, which is available. So that button will become enabled when you've successfully completed each of those assessment pieces. So it's very comprehensive. Again, at the bottom, there's access to each of us for contact.
Yep. So one thing I don't have at this stage, because you can see there, I haven't really progressed things further, but your certificate will then appear on the top of your screen. Okay, so that's the most important. I might just quickly jump to the webinars, because this is the same process with our training subscriptions. So if you are if you have a CPD subscription with us, you can go in and access all of these sorts of things from within the platform as well. So you can see in this one, our changing face, and at the top of the screen, as David had in that user guide, you've now earned the certificate, and you can click on that and then simply download the certificate. And as you will see in my own profile, so we've got all the detail in there in respect to that completed thing. And then in my own profile, if I go back to the dashboard here shows me what I have actually completed. So the course here, I can go in and I can actually download that from here. So my related parties one, I've got the online course here, and it tells me how far I've progressed. So you can see the little certificate icon here that tells me that I've actually got my certificate there, and you can go back and check this. So if you want to say, well, I'm sure I've done this, I haven't updated my CPD records, you'll be able to go in here and you'll see there's 31 that I'm enrolled in. I've completed 17, there's 16 certificates there, and I've actually accrued 42.5 hours, because we do link numbers to these. So if you successfully complete the SMSF Day course, then we will allocate 8 points here, in essence, the 8 hours that is accredited as part of that session. So it just gives you some context to what you've actually completed via the Smarter SMSF learning platform.
So it's a learning management system. You can look at all your CPD certificates, the type of activities and hours that you've completed. So it's all available once you've got your membership for CPD, or if you've bought individually the courses, as in the online course SMSF Day 2023.
Yep. So, all right, well, let's head back to our slides, I think now, David.
Yep.
There. All right, I think they're back up on the screen. So, so I guess the question is to you, David, is what's in it for me? So why would people actually want to look at now purchasing our SMSF Day online course?
We've covered a number of answering that question already, but you can see that it's not just the CPD and ticking boxes to get a number of hours up. It's not built for that. It is actually built to actually improve your knowledge on the technical sense, to address any client challenges that you might have as well on particular topics, and understanding what's currently going on in the SMSF environment, the strategies that you can apply to your knowledge to be able to put that into perspective and solve issues.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because we get people that look at our training and they might look at the variances or the variations we have in the way in which we pitch this stuff. So at a base level, we have things like our SMSF Foundations course, and that it kind of moves you from a basic understanding and really loads you up and takes you through to a far more proficient practitioner. This day has an inferred level of proficiency in your knowledge to be able to deal with many of the issues that we talk about. So we do have managers, we do have business owners, financial advisors, accountants and stuff, specialists that come along, because this is a technical SMSF event, whether it's delivered online or face-to-face. So there is an implied level of knowledge here. So this is distinctly different from the content that we produce for our SMSF Foundations course, because it is all built around an implied level of knowledge and looking at the issues that are current today and we've formulated our case study to highlight the importance of those issues, because we know these are occurring day in and day out within your SMSF client base.
Two other things that come to mind there, Aaron.
Yep.
I guess the knowledge of both yourself and Tim are
Yep.
highly valuable. And here you are, if you are undertaking this course, you're accessing that knowledge and expertise. And as we mentioned it towards the beginning of this session, there was interaction on the tables and with both yourself and Tim, and you've captured some of that and put that back into some of the enhancement of the case study as well.
Yep, absolutely. So the course is about giving you as much content as we can to get you up to speed, validate that learning through interaction and assessment. And you can see there that Thomas had a quote from his feedback, that interaction and that consistency through the one case study, it was fantastic. It was valuable, it was complex, but that was the way in which we look at as being an SMSF practitioner. You need to be across these sort of things and opportunities, because those that work in the space and have an innate understanding of these issues really can drive wonderful outcomes for clients, even in unfortunate circumstances. So so that is a key difference, I guess. So if you're not sure of the level of content, I'd suggest maybe having a chat to David, and we can sort of work out, are you better looking at something like a foundations course, or would you tap into our SMSF Day online course, which is pitched certainly at a higher level there. All right, so some pricing around this. We do have our course, as you can see, it's now available. So it is online for you to purchase now. There is a discount for those that are Smarter SMSF members, either in a training or document sense. So if you do want to access that, you can get in contact with David. He'll provide you with that coupon code. For those that did attend, you can, in essence, top up your ticket that you purchased previously. So $110 for what we call our add-on would give you access to the online course as well. We recognize that you naturally bought a ticket in the first instance. So this will allow you to, in essence, gain access to the online course and potentially refresh your knowledge around the topics that we spoke about on the day. So again, something for there. And if you do have multiple staff members that might want to gain access to the course, then, and in particular, the CPD outcome that is relevant to it, again, you can talk to us and be more than happy to work through that with you. Very different, I guess, from the larger teams is if you wanted someone, and we might, David, talk about this in the FAQs, if you do want to maybe buy one, but look at using it across the staff in a team environment, that is fine, but we will only issue the CPD certificate for the purchaser. Okay, so that is an important distinction to note there. If you want to have multiple team members, i.e. what we would call students, that would want the CPD, they would each need to have their own login and therefore complete the assessment to get that. So if you do require multiples, then yes, we're happy to talk to you about pricing for larger numbers of purchases there as well. So David, might sort of fly across to some of the FAQs now.
Yep. So we've already seen that we've got the access to the environment via the platform, which then provide 4 modules and the assessment piece, the 8 hours of CPD upon successful completion, case studies and activities, which is really, we've covered off then. We've got 3 months to complete the course. Very important. Yes, is the answer to question 3. And I'm sure there's people watching right now asking that very question. Yes, if you have completed successfully the course and you've got your CPD certificate, and it could be within 1 month, you can still get back into the system and have access to all of those resources until the time of 3 months from the data purchase.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We will recognize that you've completed, so you'll get an alert or an email from us saying, well done, you finished, but you will still be given access to that content for the duration of your purchase, in essence, for the course.
So resource library in a way.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so we've already seen the certificate. And Aaron's just sort of addressed that next point about multiple staff members accessing this course. Well, it is actually for the CPD requirement of only one name on the certificate as produced. Yes, the CPD hours are recognised by the SMSF Association, Tax Practitioner Board, Financial Planning Licenses, major accounting bodies, and SMSF audits, I think, are the major bodies.
So we have a mapping requirement. So Smarter SMSF is an accredited educator with the SMSF Association. So both Tim and myself, as fellow SMSF specialist advisors, we have the ability to obviously accredit that for CPD, not only with the SMSF Association, but also for ASIC purposes. I was about to say FASEA, but FASEA did cease on the 31st of December. So there have been changes to that requirement from the 1st of January and around the tax financial advice requirements. So all of that is covered off if you're a financial advisor. And then naturally it ticks the relevant boxes for your learning as an accountant as well. So so I think we've pretty much covered all those there, David, in terms of those FAQs. I guess they're the common ones that we see. And again, we take you back to the user guide for more information as well. I think as we wrap up, the other thing here, David, is that using the course is one thing, but there is a real importance on maintaining that currency of knowledge. So what can we do, obviously, to help people keep them up to date with the ever-changing landscape in self-managed super funds?
Yes, well, there's actually ongoing CPD. So if you have completed the online course and you think, this is great, I really enjoyed the format and how it's presented, you can continue with that with our ongoing series of webinars and face-to-face events that we offer. There is an event calendar that is constantly changing, available on our website to look at. And with that, not just if you become a member under the a series of different types of memberships within the CPD component, there's different types of webinars that are presented. So there's the technical aspect only for members, but there's also promotional webinars which look at the practical side of things with a little bit of technical content as well. So there's multiple facets of ongoing, keeping your knowledge up to date.
Yeah, and I think with Tim coming on board, like strategically, we're doing a lot of work at the moment looking at our existing CPD solutions. So one of the changes that might get you interested about the ongoing stuff is we're going to be, as part of that subscription, going beyond what I'd call the 1 hour webinar type stuff. We've got a whole heap of valuable feedback from our annual member survey, where we will be looking at more regularly running masterclasses virtually and also face-to-face, but deep diving into topics like we do with our SMSF day, not naturally for a full day, but rather than running a 1 hour webinar, we might then run a 2 or 3 hour session that drills down much further and then interrelates back to checklists, flowcharts, documents as to why these documents might be appropriate as well. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. We'll be providing more information in July around that, but you also have access to a broad range of things, including our upcoming federal budget webinar, which is complimentary for people to attend as well. And as David rightly said, go to our calendar of events, our SMSF, smartersmsf.com/events, and you'll see everything. It is literally updated each and every month and has a couple of months in advance in terms of what is coming up via Smarter SMSF.
Do you want to jump over to that to the website to have a quick look at where people can purchase both the online course and also have a look at the calendar?
So from the CPD training, you'll be able to go to the SMSF Day online course that you can see there. So in here, this is in essence the ability to buy that online, as we spoke about earlier. We've got our breakdown of the topics that we've spoken about in respect to each of those modules. There's a little bit there about the other FAQs that we've also spoken as well. And the events itself, again, you can just go to all events, and that will give you a list of all the information that we are running in the coming month and therefore in the month thereafter. And you can download that upcoming calendar that we have locked in essence, for that relevant quarter of the current year as well. So there are multiple ways that you can keep up to date, and naturally through our newsletter that we send out at the start of each and every month, it will give you more detail about what we're going to be covering and how you can register for those events as well.
So it could be a case of just topping up your hours for CPD, or having access to another group of experts around the SMSF space, or if you think, no, I need to access some more knowledge from both Tim and Aaron, that's when you look at the further memberships available.
Yep, absolutely. Go back to the slides. Yep. All right. So what else we got to cover here? So getting started then, naturally.
Yep, that's where we've just been.
That's where we've just been. Yep, all good. And then, so I guess that's it from our point of view. You can see there's some of our upcoming events. If there are any questions that you have about the course itself, or our I guess CPD solutions, you can ask now, or you can also get in contact with either David directly on our phone number, or you can email us at team@smartersmsf.com. We do believe that smart people do learn together. It's one of the reasons why I've decided this year we're going to invest even further into our CPD. We know that the landscape continues to change. We know that maintaining that currency of knowledge is still the #1 challenge facing practitioners today. We know this year's federal budget is going to have more for us to contemplate too. So not only think about the way in which our course has been delivered and its appropriateness for you to be able to access that, but also consider some of our other CPD solutions that will give you the opportunity, you and your team, the opportunity to keep up to date with everything that is relevant within the SMSF sector. So David, any closing remarks from you?
No, Aaron, we're right on time, and there's a lot to take away from today's session.
Yep, excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you found this session insightful about our new SMSF Day 2023 online course. Thank you once again, and we look forward to you joining us for an upcoming event in the near future. Take care and bye for now.